All right, everyone. Newsom versus DeSantis. Many people may be asking, why in the world is this happening? It's because both of these guys want to be president one day, and both of them definitely will not be, at least in this election cycle. But Newsom wants to use it as a part of his countrywide tour to be able to bring together Democrats to defeat the right and have more like of a national Democratic unity. And DeSantis is doing it to be able to own the conservative right's biggest fiend, which is California and their governor, Gavin Newsom, which is the thing that California, the poster child for everything conservatives hate about the country, and more. And a lot less too, which is super interesting, but we'll get into it. DeSantis can't possibly get a debate with Donald Trump, and his campaign is falling apart, as we talked about recently. So instead of actually finding a way to reach out to other people who are like-minded to boost his campaign that's falling to Nikki Haley, instead he decided to try to get at Gavin Newsom to be able to boost up his numbers, since he can't do anything else besides look weird on camera, have an awkward smile, be inhuman, possibly a lizard, and have his own stupidity thrown back in his face. And the only interviews that he gets is whether or not he actually eats pudding with 3 fingers, or if he's wearing heels or not, which obviously is not great for a campaign that wants to be taken very seriously. Hungry.
Thank you for doing this, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. Very cool.
California, 7.25%. Florida, 6%. Gas tax rate, California, 77 cents a gallon. That is a low estimate. It's up to $1 when you include mandatory fees, and in Florida it's 35 cents. Corporate income tax, California 8.84%, Florida 5.5%. Governor Newsom, this is your question. Let me ask you. Obviously, you support a different philosophy, which is higher taxes.
Yes. No, hold on.
We have a tax question, Governor.
This is a very different approach, and I agree with you completely. He has one of the most regressive tax rates in the United States of America. It's the number 3 most regressive state in America. And what that means is simply this. Who does he tax? He taxes low-income workers more than we tax millionaires and billionaires in the state of California. The question is a simple one. Who, Ron, are you for? It's a factual lie that the state of California is high tax, has the highest tax rate, but for whom? And it's a foundational and fundamental difference. You look at states like Texas, overwhelming majority of Texans pay more taxes than the state of California. So again, it's who you're for. And I think those values matter. And I appreciate you bringing up the issue of taxes.
That's actually super interesting, because it's really true that those taxes that they take, that a lot of like the big thing is when it comes to like left-wing, more Democratic states, you see how you're being taxed. In more conservative states, it's more under the surface. It's more things like toll roads. In Texas, you have to pay for a lot of the roads that you drive on. And the big reason because of that is because like cities and municipalities have to pay for their roads themselves. They're not, the state barely helps them with any of that infrastructure. So they have to recoup their funds somehow. That's why there are roads in Texas that are bankrupt, that lead to nowhere, because they literally ran out of money to be able to put together more road. And you can't like start to recoup some of those funds, because you can't charge for roads that people don't drive on because the road isn't finished. The same thing is places like Florida as well, as how they'll nickel and dime you here and there, but in these other states, these Democratic states, the price that you're going to pay is more upfront. With right-wing states, it's more insidious, and so you feel like you're being charged less just because the price that things aren't on like the gas pump and on your pay stub.
How many people leave Florida to go to California because they pay less taxes? I've not seen that. Are people going from Florida to New York because they pay less taxes? Of course not. They come to Florida because they pay lower taxes. We don't even have an income tax. And yet California has a higher sales tax than we do, and that's one of the things that we do. But here's the thing, and I'll give Gavin credit. He did at least admit in his first answer, he's joined at the hip with Biden and Harris. He thinks Biden and Harris have done a great job. He thinks the economy is working because of their policies for Americans, and they are not. And so what California represents is the Biden-Harris agenda on steroids. They would love nothing more than to get 4 more years to be able to take the California model nationally. That would be disastrous for working people in this country.
Let's talk about working people. They pay more in your state than the state of California charges for billionaires and millionaires. And it's just a value proposition.
true.
It's a fact. Again, you can't make.
You
these
have
things
$6
up.
or $7 a gallon gas. How do they afford that? These are folks that are blue collar people.
were talking
You're
about
going to force
tax rates
everybody to
in
buy
your
an electric vehicle. How are they going to be able to afford electric vehicles if you're working class people? And I think the thing about California, they have one of the highest inequality rates because, yeah, they've got Silicon Valley billionaires. They've got a lot of very wealthy people. They've got a lot of people that are on government assistance, but they've hollowed out their middle class. That's who's been leaving California. They've been leaving in other places. They go to Arizona. They go to Nevada. They go to all these places.
Let me just.
Just like Biden is hollowing out this
I do have a follow-up question.
Just like Biden.
I'm happy that you continue.
This is so funny. I'm going to bring this up. He always wants to pivot to Biden because he really wants to be talking to Biden right now, but he has to talk to Newsom because Biden doesn't want to talk to him and Trump doesn't want to talk to him. And nobody else wants to talk to him, honestly,
Let's talk
either.
a little bit about Bidenomics because I'm happy to take that on right now as well. And I think it's
You're
a fair
big
point.
supporter of it. I appreciate you acknowledging
14 million jobs, 10 times more than the last 3 Republican presidents combined.
Because he had
815,000 manufacturing
the jobs were because of the COVID lockdowns. Are you kidding me?
3.9% unemployment. As he continues to talk over me, I'll talk to the American people. 3.9% unemployment, the lowest black unemployment in American history, the lowest unemployment for Hispanics in American history, the lowest unemployment for women in 70 years, the lowest black poverty rates in history. That's this administration's agenda. And by the way, as you smile and smirk over there, you should know this, the American people. Here's a guy who celebrated Bidenomics just this week, celebrating $28 million that came into your state because of the CHIPS and Science Act, one of the most significant economic plans since FDR. I'm proud of the work Biden and Harris have done.
Would you like to respond? And I do have a follow-up. The 6% rate on people, families, a couple in California, they pay 6% income tax on $84,000 a year.
Low-wage workers in the state of Florida pay more than
I didn't ask about Florida.
Governor, 30. But here's, let me ask the question. Let me ask the question.
Let me cover first.
Ron, if I may answer the question. Okay.
California has lower taxes.
Was Ron grinding his teeth? So this is something that people have started to pick up on, but Ron has always been a super weird, creepy guy. And it makes sense that he used to torture inmates in Guantanamo Bay. He seemed like exactly that type of person. Yes, actually, he is grinding his teeth. He does that a lot, where he smiles and he starts grinding his teeth like he's a cartoon character or something. He makes the same expression that Wile E. Coyote makes after Roadrunner paints like a hole in the wall and runs into it, and then he tries to as well, but he just hits it. It's really weird. He what now? You've never seen it up close? His weird teeth grinding thing? Here's one video of it. Look at him. He's so weird. He's such a weird fake guy. You're gonna pay attention now? Yeah, anytime he does a smile like this, look at his face and he's doing some weird teeth grinding. Let me see if I can find this really quick. Yeah, he does it a lot, even when his mouth is closed. He does it so much. It's very, yeah, he does it a lot. I don't know why he's constantly grinding his teeth. He's just a creepy guy. Everything about him is just so creepy. He's such a weirdo. Freak.
According to the gun control advocacy group, every town for gun safety.
Yep.
Okay. California has the most, as you support, I know, Governor, restrictive gun laws in the United States. Yes. Florida has the 19th most restrictive. Yet, if you look at the year 2019, when each of you took office, California has had 21 mass shootings. Florida has had 9. Now, that is according to a USA Today, AP, Northeastern University database data. Keep in mind, a mass killing is defined as the intentional killing of 4 or more victims, excluding the deaths of unborn children and the offenders by any means within a 24 period of time. I believe, Governor DeSantis, you get this first.
What California wants to do is they want to make it harder for law-abiding citizens to defend themselves. Then they go easy on the criminals who are perpetrating the crime. They don't stand up for the men and women of law enforcement.
Also, what's considered a mass shooting here? Because everybody's definition of mass shooting is different. It's like one accepted definition is like 3 or more people are shot in a single incident. If that's mass shootings, then I mean, all right. But the mass shootings people I think are really talking about less of gang violence and more of just like somebody walking into some place and shooting people. Those are very different.
I love this guy talking about backing the blue when you dangled pardons for January 6th insurrectionists, 85 of them that were literally charged with attacking law enforcement. You talk a big game about backing the blue. With all due respect to the crime rate, again, he's not answering the fact that he has a higher murder rate than the state of California, a 66% higher gun death rate than the state of California. And I can easily answer this point. Gun safety saves lives. I don't think it, I know it. And the data bears that out in the state of California. California proudly does lead in terms of common sense gun safety. Common sense gun safety saves lives. You had the chance to do something meaningful. You had a chance to do something on behalf of those Parkland families. You did the exact opposite. You moved in the exact opposite direction. With all due respect, look at your own backyard, Ron.
So
You're not mining your backyard on this issue.
I will do that because we have we had two radical left Soros districts.
This is also very true that California does have a lower gun death rate, and actually dramatically so. Florida's gun death rate is actually 14, and California's is 8.5, almost half.
Especially the lower grades, should schools, and maybe all grades, should schools be focusing on reading, writing, math, science, history, computers, and maybe leaving values, considering parents might have different values than teachers at school, to the parents, to religious institutions? Or is it the role of the school? What is the role?
The role of the schools to...
What is this question? Should we be teaching subjects or values? The answer is both. You're supposed to instill values inside of... What are you talking? You're supposed to instill values in kids. I wouldn't want a school to not be trying to instill any values in my children. Like, you want them to have some values like hard work and leadership and teamwork and, creative and like being okay with expressing yourself. Those are, you don't just go to school to learn what 2 + 2 is and then go home. That's not just what schools are for. This is the question Tim Pool had for Vouch and Charlie Kirk. You think he watched the debate and was like, that's a good one, I gotta ask Newsom that one? Woke indoctrination.
Educate kids, not indoctrinate kids.
That's how you get China.
It's not to impose an agenda. It's to do the basics. And what we've said in Florida is it's inappropriate to tell a kindergartner that their gender is a choice. It's inappropriate to tell a second grader that they may have been born in the wrong body. Now, California has that. They want to have that injected into the elementary school. My wife and I have a 7, 5, and a 3-year-old. We don't think that that's appropriate. And I know most parents do not think it's appropriate. It's also important to respect parental rights to know what curriculum is being used in the classroom, and everything should be age appropriate. I actually have something that I brought that some parents have objected to. So this is a book that's in some of the schools in California. Florida, this is not consistent with our standards.
Hey, what the heck? Chill.
Gender queer. Some of it's blacked out. You would not probably be able to put this on air. This is pornography. It's cartoons. It's aimed at children, and it's wrong. So this should not be in schools. Why
you got a prop? You think he just brings that around with him all the time? Can I tell this guy he's dumb as shit, or is that inappropriate? No, you can. Of course, he would have a copy of him of it with, I don't know, man, having a copy of having a copy of child sex with you at like all points in time. Do you think he has a copy? You think that shit is like laminated or something? That's what he just brings with him? Listen, here's the thing. That claim about genderqueer and being an educational material is very misleading. It's for teachers. Try to understand. Is that for teachers, not kids? That's so interesting. See, my thing is that when it comes to books along these lines, I'm fine with them being in schools at a certain age range. It just depends on what they're in schools for, because they can just be good learning materials for children when it comes to sex ed. Like, you're going to have to show sex ed at some point. You should. Every school should be forced to do that, no matter who or what, no matter who they are or what they do. And I think I would rather kids learn about sex ed through the watched and controlled environment of a school than they do on the internet, because at the moment about 70% of people say that they learn about sex ed on the internet, which I think is one of the largest problems with society today, if I'm going to be real with you. In all honesty, when I saw that number, that 70% of people get their sex ed from like Pornhub, that's when I was like, I see it. I get like, I understand why society has these problems, and that's actually part of it. But a lot of these conservative families don't ever have like the talk with their kids or anything. All they do is just leave them at their own devices when it comes to this type of stuff, which leads to a lot of problems. That's what school's for, actually. Parents can't teach everything. But it'd be crazy if that was actually for teachers and they were just using it as like a scapegoat. Is that true? If you have anything on genderqueer being actually for teachers and students weren't even really supposed to see it, and if they were, it's supposed to only be like given out sparingly to just some kids in certain contexts. I mean, that'd be crazy. Wouldn't be surprised. Conservatives do love lying, but
People like on the left say that somehow you're banning books by removing this from a young kid's classroom. No, this is not age appropriate. And so we're going to stand for the rights of parents. I think we need to do that nationwide. I don't think you can have a situation where some states just trample on the rights of parents. Parents have a fundamental right to direct the education and upbringing of their kids.
I mean,
genderqueer is like a high school level. And I'm going to be honest too, like I said, if I remember correctly, that scene was about an author talking about the sexual experience that they had. And I'm going to be honest with you, it was like a high school level. Like I think a high schooler can handle. I think a high schooler can handle something like that. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I think a high schooler can handle that. How do we show like killings and slavery and the Holocaust how do you show children videos of the worst things human beings have ever done to each other, but then be like, a picture of a dildo is where we draw the line. No buttholes. Yeah, right. Like people are watching like in some places they're playing slave movies for kids, but a dildo is where you draw the line. That also, just so you know, that wasn't a real dick that person was attempting to suck. It was a dildo actually.
1,406 books have been banned just last year under Ron DeSantis' leadership. I love that he keeps pulling this out. I've seen this. He's been doing this all over campaign trail. What's wrong with Toni Morrison's books?
It's not banned.
What's wrong? It's not true.
No.
What's wrong with Amanda Gorman's
not
and the poetry? 1,406. 1,406 books have been banned on your banning binge in the state of Florida. As it relates to parental rights, come on. California, it's in our Constitution, parental engagement. It's called the LCFF process. We actually require parental engagement on curriculum development, and we don't. Complete lie. We don't require K through third grade sexual education.
So here's the thing when it comes to Florida's book ban is that they remove books on like there's some books removed at a statewide level, but a lot of the books are removed at a municipality level. And one of the big things is that it works off of fear. That's one of the big. Mouse is banned. Yes. Like a book about the Holocaust, Mouse is actually banned. In some places, even with Ron DeSantis's usage of the book banning laws, the Bible has been banned in some places too, right? And so the thing is, it works off of fear. That's the point, is that it opens up the avenue for teachers to be sued and to lose their jobs for having books in their classroom that a teacher doesn't like. And at the end of the day, let's be honest with ourselves. With how schools work, they're way less likely to stand for their teachers and actually work with them through these types of issues than they would they would be way happier just letting them go, and then they just lose their jobs, even if they didn't actually do anything wrong. If like a bunch of parents or people in the area are just like, we just want you gone, so we're just going to threaten your job by reporting you over and over and over again, and then to have the school just think of you as a liability. So then other people just remove a lot of these books, and they've specifically made these books be the ones. It specifically made the books that are most likely to be questioned, books about gender and sexuality and sex and things that left wing people like gay people and stuff like, and trans people, stuff like that. Well, they try to institute more religion into schools, completely juxtaposed to the Constitution, which says we will not establish a religion. You saw people very mad. A lot of these laws get used against them. How like I think atheists kind of come through with stopping a lot of weirdo conservative bullshit when it comes to religion, especially. How there was this law enforcement group that really wanted to put "In God We Trust" on the on their cars, on their cruisers, but this atheist group sued them into not being able to do it, and then they wanted to put up a statue of Jesus Christ in the station, and then they said, if you do that, then we have the right to put up a statue of Baphomet in the station, and then they just did it, and so now the station has like Jesus Christ and in literal Satan, the goat Satan with titties. That they specifically picked the goat Satan with titties. Because they wanted the titties to be out as well. They wanted the titties to be popping in there as well. And they couldn't do anything about it, but they got really angry. And so like they can try and do this, but they forget that, the sword is double-edged. They kind of feed off of this because they think that they're only going to be the only ones to really do it and nobody can really challenge them. But if they do get challenged, they start to realize how bad their decisions actually are.
It doesn't happen until middle school. What you're doing is using education as a sword for your cultural purge. And you know what? With all due respect, I remember in the 1970s. In the 1970s, we had
a weird. He's doing it again.
Initiative. And there was a guy by the name of Ronald Reagan, so offended by the Briggs Initiative, which was the original Don't Say Gay bill. In that case, it was not allowing teachers that happened to be gay to teach. And Reagan had the courage to stand up and he said, you can't catch gay like you can measles. I don't like the way you demean people. I don't like the way you demean the LGBTQ community. I don't like the way you demean.
We love our LGBTQs.
You disagree with Ron. I really find this fundamentally offensive. And this is a core value that distinguishes the values of my state and frankly, the vast majority of Americans against the weaponization of education.
How is it demeaning
But
anybody?
I have a follow-up question for you, though. And by the way, first, Governor, yes or no? Are the book banning issues, is that not a state issue? Is that a state issue or a local issue?
Local, and he's
okay. That's all I want to know.
The home book wasn't there.
That was the question I have. Here's the question I have for you, Governor Newsom. Some of the books you're talking about, one is called, the governor just brought it up, it's called Gender Queer, a memoir, explicit pornographic book showing sex acts. Another, Flamer, graphic book about young boys performing sex acts at summer camp. This book is Gay, a book containing instructions on the ins and outs of gay sexuality. Let me finish. Let's Talk About It, a book that contains graphic descriptions about how to masturbate for males and females. My question to you, Governor Newsom, those books, do you believe that's appropriate for school districts to teach kids? Yes or no?
Come on, that's not part of the curriculum. They're not teaching.
Yeah, they're not. For one, that's not part of the curriculum. For one, and two, if school is the craziest thing is that these conservatives will be like, I hate the schooling because they're not shown different. They're not like kids aren't shown different ideas about the world. They're just fed the left-wing narrative. For a certain age range, it's perfectly fine for these books to be able to be reached by kids, to be reached by, teens. These are teenagers, these people who are going to be going to college sometime soon. Man literally said this book is gay.
Those are books that were in school.
Hold on. The bottom line is you are on a book banning binge, your state. 1,406 books, 3,362 in this country.
You didn't answer. What about those books?
We don't provide for K through third grade education, that kind of curriculum. It's just made up. These guys make it up. It's part of this cultural purge.
Should it be?
Just a made
what grade would it be acceptable?
What I find offensive, Sean and Ron, what I find offensive is a very significant number of these books happen to be LGBTQ books. A significant number of these books happen to be about African Americans.
Do you think it's
honestly find offensive?
Do you think it's appropriate in school?
We don't teach that. We have sex education in middle schools and high schools where it's appropriate. This is a ginned up, made up issue to divide this country. You talk about dividing this country. This is part of the culture war, the weaponization of grievance. This is part using education. We're focusing on math, science. We're focusing on.
It is a hard question to answer. It's like when Bernie Sanders, he was basically asked, does the Boston bomber deserve like a fair trial and a legal recourse? And then he was like, yes, obviously, even bad people deserve rights. And then everybody was like, no, fuck this guy, fuck this guy, because it's a hard question to answer, because everybody, it's a big reason for why you don't have normal weirdo people making these types of laws, because if they do, they're just like, and if you step on my shoe, you get the death penalty. And if you're like a bad person, you get the death penalty. And also, if you didn't get the death penalty, we'll dig up your corpse and then give you the death penalty again. And I'm telling you, your average person would like expand the death penalty to like 17 new criminal offenses. It just wouldn't make any sense. They care more about when your average person thinks about a lot of these crimes, they think of, well, what if it happened to me, instead of what would be a just punishment to give the victim. They're not thinking of it in like a third person way. They're thinking of it like, what would I want to do to this person if they did something bad to me? And so I'm telling you right now that like a lot of conservatives would be like, if somebody steals a car, then that also could easily be worth the death penalty as well. Like I wouldn't trust a lot of these people. So when it comes to this type of stuff, it's a really difficult question to answer, and I would imagine your average politician wouldn't want to answer it, especially since he can't even really do much about that type of stuff. It's way more of a local issue. But yeah, I mean, it's just a hard question to answer. I think the real answer is that at some grade in high school, you could probably, those books are probably fine, but it's hard to answer that type of stuff. When Ron DeSantis is like, penis, look, penis, dildo, do you want a 2-year-old to suck a dildo, Mr. Newsom?
on reimagining our school
We're gonna
system.
get to education
He's
next.
criminalizing teachers and criminalizing
California already
librarians.
saved their
Check out
They've
the wrong
used the
book.
schools to impose a liberal agenda, social justice. They have this ethnic studies where they're dividing people. That's what they're doing. But let me just say something about parents' rights. He
studies
says
is
California
defining
respects parents' rights. This is rich. He's been telling a lot of whoppers tonight. This may be the biggest. In California,
Whopper?
if you're a parent in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina,
interesting
your
choice.
minor
He loves
child
Iowa.
can go to California without your knowledge or without your consent and get hormone therapy, puberty blockers, and a sex change operation, all without you knowing or consenting. How in the heck is that honoring parents' rights when you're bringing people from out of state to go around their parents' backs and getting life-altering surgeries? That is radical. That is
Ron,
extreme.
these kids
That is an
just
assault on
Children
parents'
are
rights.
You know what?
human
Ron,
Not
beings
for you
of
to
themselves.
decide. It's
You
for
know
the
what?
parents to
It's for the-
decide.
That's not the parents to
do not want
decide.
kids
Survive.
going
Whether or
on
not their
their
child
Let me
needs
go to
a
the follow-up. Let me-
whether or not your child needs a surgery is not for you to decide. It's actually for doctors to decide. I'm sorry, but like if doctors are like, we need to remove those wisdom teeth, and you're like, we don't remove wisdom teeth here, that's not you. Your child should be taken away from you.
Let me stay on a follow-up. Let's turn to the issue of
Where's your
education.
decency and humanity and
The
grace when it
decency
comes
of
to these
taking,
things.
ripping somebody away
Gentlemen,
from
gentlemen,
their
please.
family,
Nobody can
taking them to
nobody can hear you.
That is
the Ron
wrong.
DeSantis
That is
brand. I'll
wrong.
tell you,
All right.
That should not stand in this
Ron,
country.
Let us
This is so
turn,
wrong.
gentlemen, if I may, to the issue of education. Here is public school spending per K through 12 students, according to the Education Data Initiative from the U.S. Census Bureau and National Center for Education. Florida spends nearly $12,000 per student, while California spends over $16,000. Florida is ranked number one by U.S. News and World Report in terms of state education.
Here, let's look this up. In the first one, U.S. News and Education. So here's where they found this. The quality of community schools can be a central part of family aspirations, and though the public education has largely been a local matter for school boards and states allocate school funding, the federal government has played a large role evaluating the best states for education. One of 8 categories driving the overall best state rankings. U.S. examined metrics tied to both higher education and space from pre-kindergarten to high school. Okay. From pre-kindergarten to high school. Oh, wait a second. They're number 1 in education, but they're number 14 K through 12. Wait a second. Oh, so they're number 1 in college? Yeah, they're number 1 when it comes to college, but they're number 14 when it comes to K through 12. But they're going to say that means they're number 1 in education anyways. Jersey number 1. Jersey didn't make it to number 1. Where's California here? California's 38. Well, higher education, it's 3. 33. Okay. So Florida is ranking higher here in this study, but not study. Sorry, this compilation. When it comes to educate, they're just, I don't know, best and worst public schools. When it comes to this ranking, when it comes to this, Schoolaroo ventures to discover and evaluate public school rankings in the U.S., identifying the best and worst school systems across 3 factors: student success, student safety, and student quality. And when it comes to this, neither Florida or California rank very high. They both rank near the bottom of the entire list, but California is 40 and Florida would be 42. So, I mean, I don't know. It seems like it's a little across the board, depending all of this, unless you're bringing up how students actually perform, student performance. I find it hard to be able to find out like a best and worst necessarily.
You had a 15-week rule in California. You reduced it to 6. My question is this. What was your thinking behind it? Was it for religious reasons? Was it for scientific reasons? What was the reason for you from going from 15 weeks to 6 weeks?
Well, I believe in a culture of life. I think we're better off when everybody counts, when everybody has an opportunity to do well. And that bill
women are forced to give
when there's
birth.
a detectable heartbeat for the child. And some states have done that. Some states have done others. Some states have done later. And obviously, they have a right to do that. But I think about one of our Floridians, a lady named Penny Hopper. She actually survived a late-term abortion back in the day. And they left her on the table there to basically wither away. Her grandmother came, saved her, brought her to a hospital, saved her, and she ended up living a good life. So
how real is this story? Because we've seen something about this, and I've seen that it's like super duper fake. I've heard some stuff about this being super duper double, triple, quadruple, omega fake. Like she was fighting off the doctors when it came to an abortion. And then when she lived, everybody clapped, and then everyone clapped. I don't know. I've seen some stuff about this. It does not seem real. I've looked into it. I haven't been able to find much actual evidence about this at all.
She counts and she matters. And I think that what the position that we have from the modern left, including in California, is that they will take your tax dollars and they will fund abortion all the way to the moment of birth. He's wrong when he says that the later terms are all because of this. 88% past 15 weeks are in fact elective from the Florida data. He doesn't keep data there, but that is really extreme to take your tax dollars and to do this all the way up to the moment of birth. He didn't answer your question about any type of protections at all for a baby that has a beating heart, that can feel pain, that is viable.
Right.
But respectfully, this is an important conversation. Will you or will you not support a national
Sean, why didn't you answer
or will
his
you
question?
not support
Why didn't
a
you
national
support?
ban if it lands on your desk? You couldn't answer that in any other context.
Okay,
answer
gentlemen,
tonight. It's a
we're
simple
moving
yes,
on
no. By
to the
way,
next issue.
No, Sean, not a
You
next
never
issue.
gave a week.
The American people should know this. I'll answer it for Ron DeSantis. He can't answer it. He will sign that extreme.
Okay,
6-week
let me move on.
ban. The American people should know that.
I'm calling this the lightning round. It'd be great if you guys cooperated. I'm not.
One thing is that everybody has their own position. I think when it comes to this type of stuff, I think you can win a lot of people over when it comes to the restriction being the doctor specifically. I feel like a lot of people don't bring up the fact that the restriction to abortion are doctors. If a doctor doesn't think that you should get one and they won't give it to you. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I feel like an abortion, and then the doctor will just start wheeling out the fetus succomatic to be able to yoink that shit right out of your UD. It's not really how that works. You could just be like, there are restrictions on doctors giving correct information to their patients and following their conscience when it comes to whether or not this is medically necessary and taking in the fetus's potential life into consideration. And that could be like a pretty simple one there. And obviously we could like sue doctors and stop them from doing stuff like that. Doing stuff like giving false information or being unscrupulous when it comes to like abortions and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, your doctor will probably know better than a politician about whether or not you need an abortion.
And I want to ask you, we all know that federal policy does have a huge impact on states. We know that. I'm going to ask you 3 simple questions, and I just want one-word answers, okay? From 3 of you, because we're coming up on a break. And the issue is right now Joe Biden is president.
Yep.
So I would like both of you to give a grade to Joe Biden overall as president. Governor Newsom, I'll give A.
An A, absolutely.
Governor DeSantis
Failed.
And a failure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that's your
Now, number 2, are his policies helping or hurting your individual states? Is it helping the state of Florida?
The inflation is hurting our state big time.
Grade.
Fail. He failed. He's failed on the
Would you-
economy.
The guy just took
Is it helping
$28
the state
million
of
from the
California?
Science and Tech Act. Thank you, Joe Biden. It's absolutely accelerating our dominance in manufacturing, accelerating our revitalization.
Okay,
of
that
our
was a
state.
simple
The answer
answer.
is unequivocally,
Lastly.
absolutely yes.
Okay.
C+. I give him like a C. Personally, I give him like a C. You know, it's definitely fallen since Israel started to do their Israel thing. I would give him like a C+, B-. He was at a B-, but it's fallen to a C. I'm right there with you, 50. He's straight average. Yeah.
I will ask you, Governor DeSantis.
And on this, Biden has helped out Florida a lot, especially when it came to a lot of environmental problems that Florida's been having, especially due to things like global warming that DeSantis just doesn't believe in.
Over and over again, and Governor Newsom, you have seen over and over again. Joe Biden is experienced what I believe to be significant cognitive decline. And in other words, it's the toughest job in the world. Is Joe Biden experiencing this cognitive decline? Is it a danger to the country? Do you find when he speaks, what is your reaction to it?
Yes, he's in decline. Yes, it's a danger to the country. He has no business running for president. And, Gavin Newsom agrees with that. He won't say that. That's why he's running his shadow campaign. He should not be running.
Shadow campaign. I guess a shadow campaign that's doing pretty well is better than a campaign in the light that's actually failing. But, nah, man, Biden's always been kind of old. Like, I mean, yeah, he's old and you can see it and feel it. And he looks older than Trump. And Trump is just more animated than him. But Trump has said Trump marks me as somebody who's like way older than Biden, even as old, because I've never seen that man run. Okay. I've seen Biden run. Biden rode a bike, and you could be like, oh, he fell off a bike. I don't think Trump's touched a bike in 30 years. Okay. I don't think Donald Trump has ran in his life. Okay. Biden jogs daily. Yeah, you could watch him move. He picks up the pace. He's really not doing as bad as Trump is. But I don't know. I just don't see it has like some crazy cognitive decline. Like, yeah, he's old. I don't think he should be president because he's really old. But I think he's disconnected from what a lot of young people need and want, and I think that's very clear in who he is. But in the idea of he's like he's a dementia riddled, I think Donald Trump is way closer to being anything like that than Biden is, honestly. But Biden just looks older, so your average person is just gonna be like, duh, Biden, no, duh.
He is not up to the job, and it is dangerous for this country.
Well, I will take Joe Biden at 100 versus Ron DeSantis any day of the week at any age. In fact, all of the folks.
You think he's up to the job? You think he's 100%?
I've been spending plenty of time with Joe Biden in private, in public. You don't know. And by the way, results matter. Inflation now is down to 3.2%. Wages are up to 4.4%. The economy is booming, 5.2% GDP growth in the last quarter. Those are facts you don't hear on Fox News. 14 million jobs, 10 times
Let me
more than
move
the last
on. That was a lightning round. Now, on March 31st, 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson famously said, "I shall not seek and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president." Now, despite being an incumbent president who is eligible to run for re-election, Governor Newsom, I've interviewed you twice on this issue. You say you are not running for president in 2024. In fact, you recently said, quote, you think that Vice President Harris is naturally the one lined up to run for president if Joe Biden were to bow out. Governor Newsom, tonight I ask you, will you make an LBJ-like statement? And Governor DeSantis, you say he's running a shadow campaign in your...
Wait. I shall not seek and I will not accept nomination for my party for another term as your president. Is he asking for this type of statement for this time or like for the rest of his life?
Statement. And Governor DeSantis, you say he's running a shadow campaign. In your response, I would like you to answer that. Will you say unequivocally, under no circumstances are you running?
Correct. I've said, I don't know how many times I can say it. Just making this stuff up about a shadow campaign.
If at the DNC convention they come and ask you, will you run? What will you say?
Joe Biden will be our nominee in a matter of weeks. And in a matter of weeks, Sean, he'll be endorsing Donald Trump as a nominee for the Republican Party.
If they come to you at the DNC and Joe is incapable of running and they ask you, are you a hard no?
And it's not even optional. He's doing fantastically. I appreciate and respect the work the president's doing and the vice president's, the Biden-Harris campaign and team. So absolutely unequivocally, I look forward to continuing to support their efforts. President Biden will be reelected. Donald Trump will be rejected.
I think what he's saying should color every single thing. I mean, I've called him on a lot of the lies, but he says Joe Biden is 100% up to the job. You know that that's not true. Anybody that can look, he wants you to believe him over your own lying eyes.
If I'm going to be honest with you, I would say that he's 100% up to the job, mostly because I don't think you're like a president necessarily has to do that much. And if a president doesn't do that much, the country just kind of ticks on. One of the best things about Donald Trump's presidency is the fact that he actually didn't spend a lot of time doing stuff, which was great because we could continue on not failing to his political positions, which are bad and make the country worse because they're bad. And he's bad, a bad man who does bad things to the country when given the opportunity to. And so since he spent a lot of time golfing and not being president, where you can just replace him golfing, which is, I don't know, Biden just simply being dead, I think it'd be great. I'd still elect Joe Biden's corpse over Donald Trump at any point in time. Yeah, Trump proved that you don't have to actually be that mentally sound, stable, capable there. You might not actually need a mind at all to be president. He literally spent how many days did he spend golfing out of his entire presidency? Wasn't it like a full year or something? Or like half a year? Wasn't it like 100 days? It was like 100 days or something. It was crazy.
For years, a gallon of gasoline, Governor Newsom, in California has been notably higher in your state than in the state of Florida.
That's right.
Here are the numbers, by the way, recent numbers. The average cost for a gallon of gas nationwide, just over $3.24. In Florida, $3.17. In California, it is a whopping $4.85. So, Governor Newsom, I ask you, you've also...
When they put these gallon of gas prices, are these for like unleaded, the medium one? I forget what the medium one is. And premium altogether? Whopping. Are they just averaged and then put up, or is there like something specific there? I don't know.
Sued big oil companies, alleging executives have deceived the public about the health of our planet, knowing that it's a polluter. If your lawsuit is successful, that would likely mean higher gas prices, even higher gas prices for everybody. Here's my question, though.
Possible.
Could you name right now one source of energy that you can bring online in the next 3 to 6 months that would be as inexpensive for the people in this country as fossil fuels?
Well, let me
bring on in the next 3 to 6 months. Can you magically form energy right now that would make my that would suck my dick and also fuel my car. Can you do that, Mr. Newsom man? All right.
California is the only one that oil companies are gouging. Why aren't they doing that to Georgia or Florida or these other states that have lower gas prices? It's because of their policies. That's why people are paying more there. What Gavin Newsom wants to do, what he's doing in California, what Biden wants to do nationally is government-dictated green energy policies. They want to kneecap fossil fuels and reliable energy. We've already seen what's happened in California. They have rolling
reliable
blackouts.
Energy.
He actually implemented.
It's reliably killing us. I don't know. Here's the thing. It's reliable for you. Maybe it's not reliable for the world. It's not reliable for the people getting it out of the ground. So it's not reliable for the people living around the people pulling it out of the ground.
A mandate to buy electric vehicles. So pretty soon in California, you're not going to be able to buy a normal car, only electric vehicles. And they celebrated that as like a great thing. A couple days later, there was a notice from the state government telling all EV owners, do not plug in your EV because they don't have enough grid capacity. So he is walking his people into a big time disaster. What Biden wants to do is he wants to take the California model. He wants to impose that nationally. He wants to take away your ability to purchase the car that you want. He wants to kneecap reliable energy. And he wants to bring these rolling blackouts all across the United States of America. It doesn't work. It's going to cause huge problems. We have more energy here. We can be the dominant energy producer in the world.
Florida,
and that's what we're going to do. Florida's not a big energy state. We have the Marcellus Shale. We have the West Texas. We have all of.
I actually learned something super interesting recently, and it's that it's curious because America is one of the largest oil producing countries in the entire world. Just so you know, we're right up there. I think we're right under Saudi Arabia. Actually, I think we're number 2, aren't we? Or do we produce more oil than Saudi Arabia? I think Saudi Arabia still produces more oil, but we're like number 2. We might be number 1. I keep forgetting. We're up there though. We're way higher than a lot of people think. We are number 1. Thank you. We are also technically energy independent. Before in the past, we used to consume way more oil than we produce, but now we actually produce more oil than we consume. But you may be wondering, if that's the case, then why are we still getting oil from places like Saudi Arabia? Well, the reason is because our oil refineries at the crude oil that we have here are made to refine a type of oil that we don't have here in the country. Oil is usually categorized as sweet or unsweet. The oil that we get here, if I remember correctly, is sweet. The oil that Saudi Arabia produces is unsweet. And so it's not only are we prepared to be able to refine that type of crude oil, but also we're more prepared to refine their oil and not our oil that we make. It's also really expensive to be able to switch over that type of oil manufacturing, and it's also cheaper to be able to pull it out of the ground for places like Saudi Arabia compared to us. And so even if we produced all of our oil here in the country, we would still be paying a higher price simply because our workers are paid more than the slaves in Saudi Arabia, and also our domestic work just costs more than shipping it from overseas. It's just like capitalism at work, right? So even if we could refine all of the oil here, like we could from Saudi Arabia, we still wouldn't be doing that, and so we still we still ship oil across the world, and we don't actually refine it for ourselves. It's actually pretty interesting. It's cool, but we still should be moving away from all of it. Fuck that. While they're talking about this, there are 1 million gallons of oil spilling into the Gulf Coast right now, and a week after it started, and we still can't find a source or a culprit for who did it. So just so you know, while you may not have heard of it, but yes, 1 million gallons plus is spilling into the Gulf Coast right now as we speak. And a lot of people aren't talking about it. A lot of people don't know about it. And nobody knows who did it. Well, nobody who's going to speak up knows who did it. My bad. It's now 1.1 million gallons of oil. Yeah, 1.1 million gallons of oil spilled into Gulf of Mexico. Over a week later, the source remains a mystery. So yeah, it's happening right now. Yeah, a lot of people don't know, but yeah, a lot of oil spilling into the Gulf again. Lovely.
These are the numbers for the homeless population in each of your states. It is a big problem around the country. In the state of California, it is 172,000. In Florida, it is 26,000. Now, the per capita numbers are pretty much the same. For California, it is 44 per 10,000 people, while Florida has 12 per 10,000 people. So, Governor DeSantis, I ask you, why the disparity? What are the policies you are implementing that is different from that of California?
Listen, here's the real thing, okay? California has a lot of rich people, a lot more rich people, and they hate poor people. And so their municipalities institute laws that are anti-poor specifically to maintain property values. That's why. and they're pushing homeless people into the desert.
California's adopting leftist policies. Gavin Newsom was governor or mayor of San Francisco. He put out a 10-year plan like 20 years ago. He was going to end homelessness. Then a few years later, he had another plan. And now he says he's going to do, and it's only gotten worse. In the last 10 years in California, the homeless has gone up 45%. It's gone down in Florida 45%. But it's caused a huge problem with quality of life in California. The people that flee always bring up this. They've really empowered lawlessness and drug use. And, Gavin Newsom at one point tried to say that California was the freedom state. And I just kind of laugh, like, you're locking people down, you're doing all this. But then I thought about it. California does have freedoms that some people don't, that other states don't. You have the freedom to defecate in public in California. You have the freedom to pitch a tent on Sunset Boulevard. You have the freedom
is this
to
where he
create a homeless
pulls up
encampment under a freeway and even light it on fire. You have the freedom to have an open air drug market and use drugs. You have the freedom, if you're an illegal alien, to get all these tax.
Bro, you're from Florida. You're the bath salt state. Ain't nobody gonna believe you when you say that you don't allow drugs everywhere. What are you talking about, man? Who are you talking to? Have you seen Jacksonville? You're from Florida.
Taxpayer benefits. So those are freedoms. They're not the freedoms our founding fathers envisioned, but they have contributed to the destruction of the quality of life in California, and the results speak for themselves. People are leaving the state because they have failed in addressing the homeless population.
Okay, so here's the thing. Some people are leaving because of that. A super interesting thing about places leaving another place is that a super interesting thing in the system of capitalism that we have now is that companies and people leaving from one area to another is either a sign of something really good or something really bad happening, but usually it's either something really good happening, in the sense of, if you are successful, businesses don't want to be around you necessarily when in the way that they conduct business, because successful places mean that there's going to be higher taxes and there's going to be better amenities and things along those lines. And so everything's going to be more expensive because everybody wants to be there. If you want to be there, prices are going to go up because then they can charge more because people are going to be able to pay more or want to pay more to be able to have the same exact thing. And so in California, and you can just broaden this out, and not in California, because California is one of the largest economies in the world. You just broaden out to another large economy, the United States of America. We have a big offshoring of company problem here in the States, but that's not because America's a bad place to do business necessarily. It's because America is a more expensive place to do business because it's way easier to be able to rely on the slaves from the Philippines and in Bangladesh to be able to put together your shoes than it is for a group of workers in Boise, Idaho to put together your shoes. It's going to be cheaper to be able to do that, but it's not cheaper because like it's like better. It's cheaper because people ask for less, they get less, they expect less, and so you can pay them less. But at the end of the day, people leaving California means California is successful in the capitalist framework of things. In the capitalist framework of people want to be there, people want to spend money there, people want to experience what it's like being there. And the thing is, places like Texas and Florida are experiencing that as well, but in different ways. Florida is one of the worst. Like, you can talk about Canada housing. Florida housing is the worst housing in the entire country. It's the most overpriced housing market in the entire country, and it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. With that being said, Texas also, and a lot of Texas cities are having companies leave there as well, in Florida as well, because things are getting more expensive. More people move there. 800,000 people leaving ain't making a dent. Well, it makes a dent, but a small one. And at the end of the day, like, people are coming and going from California, and it would be nice for prices in California to go down.
Well, I love the rant on freedom. I mean, here's a guy who's criminalizing teachers, criminalizing doctors, criminalizing librarians, and criminalizing women that seek their reproductive care. You're making it harder to vote. You're banning books. I mean, spare me this notion of freedom. Ask the folks at Disney about freedom and free enterprise. Ask the folks at the Special Olympics that you threatened to fine with $27
because they were discriminating against the athletes.
Who goes after Special Olympians
when it comes to the issue,
Down syndrome, Ron, of homelessness?
That is wrong. That's being a liberal bully. That's being a bully.
Really?
They had Down syndrome. They wanted to
I got any liberal bullies in chat?
$27 million
They were discriminating against because they were discriminating against the athletes. They wanted to marginalize the athletes, and you wanted the athletes marginalized. That was wrong what you did. These are.
Thank you, Tyrannix, for the tier 1. I really appreciate you. Thank you. What? I don't know what they're talking about. I didn't know anything about the Special Olympics. Wait. Ron DeSantis Special Olympics. When did this come up? Oh, the Special Olympics wanted a requirement that they have that everybody, all the contestants are vaccinated And DeSantis threatened them with a $27 million fine. And so instead of, if they did it, so they reversed their decision because they didn't want to get sued by Ron DeSantis. So apparently the discrimination is against people who want to give other people illnesses. Okay.
Kids with Down syndrome
By the way,
that just wanted to compete.
I grew up working
and you wanted
aid to
them,
adoption
you wanted
of
them
special
out of the
kids. I've
Special
been working with
Olympics. You're a
Special
liberal
Olympians all
bully.
my life.
You want
What? How did this come with? How did Down syndrome come into this? What are you talking about?
to be, you wanted them to be ostracized.
You
you
threatened
should
to fine
talk to
Special
Isabella
Olympians
from Florida.
with $27
She got to participate
million
because
in
we
fines.
stood up for
This
her
is how
rights.
you treat. Oh, yeah, by the way, no, hold on.
It's your
no,
turn.
let me say
Go.
this. I can handle that. I can handle it. I'm used to that. But you know what?
You wanted her
Your
not to
attacks
compete.
on the trans community,
You
your
wanted
attack
her
on the
not
gay
to
and lesbian
compete.
community.
That's wrong.
You attack
She should have been
vulnerable
able to compete.
communities.
We
You
stood
attack
up for them,
women.
and we made sure they
Again,
could
Ron,
compete.
relax. I can handle it. I'm used to bullying. You're nothing but a bully.
You're a
I understand
bully.
that.
Got him.
Intimidating.
No, you're
and
a bully.
humiliating people. That's your calling
Why
card.
did you want the
And by
Special
the way,
Olympians not
how
to be
well
able
is
to
it going
compete?
for you?
Why
How
did you
well
want
is
them
this?
not
J9 Fleming, thanks so much for the tier 1. I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate you for that. Thank you. Yo, what are these clowns going on about? This is wild. The craziest thing about it is that both of DeSantis just really wants to talk to Biden. He really wants to talk to Biden. He really wants to talk to Trump, but nobody wants to talk to him. So he has to settle for Newsom. And Newsom's just having fun, man.
This is a map of San Francisco.
No, it's the
There's a
map.
lot of
Look,
blocks.
it's the Dookie map. It's the poo-poo map. Look, it's his little poo-poo map. Listen to him explain the poo-poo map.
On that. You may be asking, what is that plotting? Well, this is an app where they plot the human feces that are found on the streets of San Francisco. And you see how almost the whole thing is covered because that is what has happened in one of the previous greatest cities this country's ever had.
So true. The California's covered in bro, Biden or Andy bringing all of these pictures. What's he doing? He has every picture inside of his jacket. Guys, do you think that he doesn't actually, when you ask if he has heels, he doesn't actually have heels? He just likes to keep folded up pictures for talking points that he has right under his feet because they're easy for him to pull out. He just reaches down and pulls out another one. It's like a little filing cabinet for him. So he's standing on all of them, but they're not actually heels. Oh, it's making sense. Mississippi's the worst in everything. It's the lowest bar. That is true. I don't want to be anywhere near them. Bro brought porn and a poop map to a debate. He really was on something else. He was preparing like crazy for this one. Porn and the poop map. He had that one ready to go. Is that a step stool behind him? Yo, that's crazy. If they gave him a step stool, he is shorter than Newsom. That's crazy if he's like, I brought my own. And then he clicks his heels together and his heels get 4 inches taller. Don't worry, guys. I got this. I don't need that. That'd look embarrassing. It'd be embarrassing. I'm not standing on that shit. Go gadget heel extension. Heel expansion. Bro wanted to be 6 foot so bad.
Human feces is now a fact of life, except when a communist dictator comes to town. Then they cleaned up the streets. They lined the streets with Chinese flags. They didn't put American flags there. They cleaned everything up. So they're willing to do it for a communist dictator, but they're not willing to do it for their own people.
Just so you know, if you don't understand what he's talking about, Xi Jinping took a visit to California not too long ago. Conservatives were like, no, they removed all of the Chinese flags. Why aren't there American flags everywhere? The answer is because he's the president of China, not America. And also there were American flags there. In the pictures that they were sharing with each other to show that there weren't any American flags there were people holding American flags. They didn't ban any of them. Obviously, they put Chinese flags up for the president of China to come by. Dumbass.
I want to get in with the limited time we have left. I want to get to two very important issues we have not hit. After the Hamas terror attacks on October the 7th, we have seen what is nothing short of a disturbing outbreak of virulent hatred, anti-Semitism around the world, in the halls of our Congress, on American streets, on college campuses. Last month, outside in Sydney Opera House in Australia. We've seen it all over Europe, but in Australia, anti-Israeli protesters literally in this day and age chanting, gas the Jews, F the Jews.
That also was not true. That they were not chanting gas the Jews. I forget exactly what they were saying, but there were conservatives trying to claim that there was a group of Palestinian protesters that were chanting gas the Jews, but they weren't. They weren't chanting that at all, actually. It was actually very clear that they weren't chanting that. But they're saying glass of juice, obviously. No. No, but they weren't saying that. Here, wait, let me see. Let me see if I can find this up super quickly. Let me see if I can find this. Hold on, I'm not sure if I can find the video. There's so much stuff coming out all the time. I have to see if I can find it sometime.
American cities, we have protesters calling for global Islamic war and demanding that Israel be wiped off the map, or in the words of Congresswoman Tlaib, from the river to the sea. Israel, meanwhile, is vowing to eradicate the terrorist group Hamas. But according to a report in the New York Times this week, U.S. officials have warned Israel that they need more to fight more surgically in Gaza. Governor Newsom, 30 seconds for you. We have to cut back on time.
All right.
How can Israel win the war against this terrorist group using surgical strikes and directions from Joe Biden?
Israel. I visited Israel. I met with families, hostages. I saw videos of children being killed in front of their parents, parents being killed in front of their children. I saw a beheading with a garden hoe. This is not complicated to me. This is a fight between good and evil. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and they need to be eliminated, not just for the people of Israel and Jews around the world, but for the Palestinians themselves. But when it comes to the issue of anti-Semitism, you just mentioned a lot of things that have been occurring on Ron DeSantis' watch. He said nothing.
You're calling him anti-Semitic?
Marching. I'm saying he countenanced anti-Semitism, and now he's finally talking a big game ever since October 7th. How about the mass man marching in the street?
Fairness of
Jews
time,
get the rope.
gentlemen.
You said nothing.
Governor DeSantis,
nothing on these issues. Look at the record.
Governor
Governor
short
DeSantis.
than a second Holocaust. They want to destroy Israel and wipe every single Jew off the map.
All right. Here's something that a lot of people don't want to come to grips with. It's impossible for Israel to achieve its goal. It can't eliminate Hamas. It's just not possible. It's like trying to eliminate ISIS. It's not possible. It hasn't happened. It will never happen. It can't happen. And every time they kill another Palestinian, you create like two Hamas operatives. It's just you can't do it. Israel's work in this field has only led to more suffering and has only led to more deaths for Jewish people. And Netanyahu's government putting up Hamas as preferable to other governments in Gaza has also led to this issue.
Israel has every right to defend itself to the hilt. Biden should not be kneecapping them in any way, shape, or form. And by the way, Biden stranded a lot of American citizens over there. We're trying to get home. So I did an executive order in Florida, and we sent planes over to Israel right in the aftermath of October 7th, and we saved over 700 Americans, mostly Floridians, but not all, because Biden wouldn't do it. Finally, Biden started dumping people in Greece, and then they were sending a bill to the Americans just to get to Greece. If you come to this country illegally, they will pay to fly you all over the place. They'll put you up in a hotel at no expense. But yet our own citizens fleeing a war zone, they're going to send you a bill. Joe Biden failed those people.
Kick you out on the street.
Let me ask you.
The only people paying to send migrants everywhere is Florida and Texas, and that's to California and New York. Okay.
I appreciate you, Ron, being a family man. You got 3 incredible kids. I appreciate your wife, your sacrifice, and I appreciate your military service.
His wife, or do you mean his mommy? Which one? Because that's a very important question. I'm gonna be completely real with you. My mommy, I mean my wife. That's crazy. That's a crazy thing. Oh, anyways, just in case if you've never seen this before. If you don't know.
My wife and we have my mommy or my wife and we have my mommy or my wife and we have
mommy sorry. He was pulling a mommy sorry. My mommy, my wife.
But I also appreciate we do have fundamental differences about the fate and future of this country. And that's why I'm going to be working so hard to get Joe Biden and Kamala Harris reelected in 2024.
You couldn't resist. You had to go right back to 2024. All right, here's the last question. Would you do this again?
Well, you know what?
I hope we could do another half hour. I got all night.
Joe Biden should show up to a debate.
That's why
I have another 20 minutes, and I've got a lot of questions.
I'm happy to.
You want to stay?
Let's just do an extended hour. I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Then
this has been fun.
I think it's been fun, and I think it's been more entertaining. I'm sorry to the guests that I've invited. I got to take a break, though, in the meantime. We've got to pay some bills. Not a cheap set we built for y'all. I hope you like it.
All right. I didn't have much to write down. There wasn't like a whole lot to write down, honestly. I think at the end, Newsom was really cooking. He was starting to go a little crazy. He was starting to go a little sicko mode.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see you there. If you're enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button. If you don't, it'll make Boo very sad. I know a bunch of you who are watching are not subscribed. Join the frenzy. You won't regret it. Thank you, Boo.